Star Wars, Boba Fett, The Fight to Survive by Terry Bisson, Chapter 1. Rain, some hate it, some love it, some like Boba Fett can hardly remember a time without it. Supposedly, free water is rare in the galaxy, but you would never know it on his planet. It comes down in sheets day and night, covering this world, which is all seas except for a few cities on platforms. The world is called Kamino. The city where Boba and his father live is called Tipoca City. Lives rather for this and the story of how they left and why and what happened after that. You may have heard of Boba Fett's father. He was a bounty hunter, the fiercest, the fastest, and most fearless bounty hunter in the galaxy. Boba Fett was the kid standing in the shadow or by his side, or usually both. When he was lucky, that is, when his dad took him along, which was almost always. Boba was nearly 10, but not quite old enough to be on his own. Boba liked going with his father, seeing new worlds, experiencing the cold thrill of hyperspace, and even trying to try his hand at the controls of his father's small but deadly starship. Slave Eye from time to time. A bounty hunter is an outlaw, a tracker, and sometimes a killer for hire. He doesn't care whose targets are or they're running from or why. He works for the highest bidder, which means the richest and the most ruthless beings in the galaxy. No questions asked. Being a bounty hunter's son means keeping your mouth shut and your eyes open. No problem, Boba Fett was proud of his father and proud of what he did. I'm a bounty hunter's son, he would say to himself proudly. The reason he said it to himself and to no one else was that he had no one else to say it to. He had no friends. How can you have friends when you live in travel and secret, sneaking on and off planets, avoiding police and security, and the dreaded nosy Jedi Knights? A bounty hunter must always be ready to go anywhere and face any danger. That was from Jango Fett's code, the rule by which he lived. Boba Fett had his own smaller, more personal code. A bounty hunter's kid must always be ready to go with him. At age 10, Boba had seen more of the galaxy than most grown-ups. What he hadn't seen was the inside of a schoolroom, for he'd never been to school. What he hadn't seen was his mother's smile. For he had no mother. What he hadn't heard was the laughter of a friend, for he had no friends. Just because he hadn't been to school didn't mean Boba was stupid and ignorant. There were always books to take on trips, books to read at home on Kamino. He could get all the books he wanted, 2 at a time, only please. From the library car at his foot of the street into Tipoca City. The library was just a slot in the doorway, but when Bubba rang the bell, the librarian passed out new books and took back the ones that were due. The ones Bubba had read or given up on or decided were boring. The librarian was almost a friend Bubba had never actually seen. Bubba had no idea what looked like, or even if he was a person. He just had a voice through a slot in the library door. In fact, Bubba figured Word could be a droid, since he could hear him whirring and clicking when he was getting books or holograms. Mostly books. Word didn't like holograms. Use your imagination, he would say. Find the pictures there, find the music there. Bubba agreed. He liked books because the pictures made him in his mind were better than the ones in the holograms. Bubba knew about his friends and from books. A lot of books are about friends having adventures, making discoveries, or just hanging out. Sometimes Bubba pretended to have friends. Pretending is a form of wishing. But his father's voice was always in his head. Bubba, stay unattached. Remember, no friends, no enemies, only allies and adversaries. That saying was only Jango Fett's code. Bubba's father had lots of sayings, and they were all from his code. Jango Fett had one friend, though. She was a bounty hunter herself. Her name was Zam Wesell. Weasel. Sam could be beautiful but bad. She liked to be bad. She sometimes read books about famous outlaws and bloody battles. It was Sam who first mentioned that Bubba should read, even though she herself didn't read much. Want adventure? Read books, Sam said. Then when you get tired of the excitement, you can close the book better than real life. Bubba's father didn't read much. Books? A waste of time, he said. Read maps, Bubba. Instructions, warnings, important stuff. Bubba read all that, but he liked books better, especially books about droids and starships, stuff he knew he could use someday. Sometimes Bubba thought Zam had told him to read books just because his dad thought it was a waste of time. Zam liked to tease Jango. Zam was a challengingly Eclodite. She changed the form of her body back and forth depending on the situation. Mothers didn't do that. Bubba was pretty sure. He had never read about mothers in books, even though he had never met one. A mother seemed like a nice thing to have. Once when he was little, Bubba asked his father who his mother was. You never had one, said his father. You are a clone. That means you are my son, period. No one else, no woman was involved. Bubba nodded. That meant he was exactly like his father, Jango Fett. That meant he was special. Sometimes in secret, he wished he had a mother. Bubba and his father lived on Kamino because Jango Fett had a job to do there. He was training a special army of super soldiers for a man named Count Tyrannus. Bubba liked to watch the soldiers line up in long ranks, marching in the rain. Then never got tired, and they never complained, and they all looked exactly alike. Exactly like his father, only younger. Exactly like Bubba himself, only older. They are my clones, Jango Fett told him, once he was little. It was what Bubba had expected to hear, but it still hurt. You just like me? Not like you, said Jango Fett. They are only soldiers. They grow up twice as fast and only live half as long. You're the only true clone. You are my real son. I see, said Bubba. He felt better. Still, he didn't go watch the clones march anymore. And he didn't feel quite as special as before. Tyrannus was an old man with a long, lean face and eyes like a hawk. Bubba had never seen him in person, only on holograms when he gave instructions to Jango Fett or asked about the progress of the clone army. Jango called him Count and was always polite, but that didn't mean he liked him. Bubba knew. Always to be polite to a client. That was the part of Jango's code. Bubba heard his father and the Count talking about a new job on the faraway planet. The Count told Jango Fett that the job would be very dangerous. That didn't stop Bubba's father, of course. Later on, Bubba wondered if the Count had played up to the danger to make sure Jango took the job. You never knew with grown-ups. Jango agreed to do the job. He told the Count he would have to meet up with Zam Weasel and take her along with him. Bubba grinned when he heard that. If they were both going, that means he might get to go too. No such luck. The next morning, Jango Fett strapped on his battle armor and told Bubba he and Sam were going on a trip. Me too, Bubba asked hopefully. Django shook his head. Sorry, son. You're going to have to stay home alone. Bubba groaned. A bounty hunter never complains, said Django in that special voice he reserved for his code. And neither does his son. But, no buts, son. This is a special job for the Count. Sam and I have to travel fast and light. I'm fast, Bubba said, and I'm light. Jango Fett laughed. A little too light, he said, patting Bubba on the head. But big enough to stay here on your own. It'll only be a few days. Next morning, Bubba woke up alone in the apartment. Home alone, but not entirely alone. His father had left him with a bowl with 5 sea mice in it and a note. We'll be back when these are gone. Sea mice can live in either air or water. They are incredibly cute with big brown eyes and little paws that turn into flippers. When you put them into the water, they are also incredibly good to eat if you are a sea eel. Django's pet sea eel lived in the tank in the bedroom. And I'll see y'all next time.